Welcome back to Gameday Tarps podcast, episode 11. We're going to get right into things here. We're going to start off with the unfortunate passing of Adam Johnson. I don't think it's something that you can skip if you're a hockey fan and you're talking about hockey in the last couple of weeks. You cannot go without discussing this as a hockey topic. Obviously, it's terrible. We know the police are investigating what's going on. I know I personally am choosing to believe that Matt Petgrave did not intentionally do it, but you can't really argue with the audio or the video sometimes, and it just looks rough from that point of view. But I think we're here today just talk about neck guards and why we think that it's just a no-brainer that it should be every player's permanent piece of equipment. So I know you guys want to get into it too, so let's break down Adam Johnson's unfortunate passing on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the video evidence. And there was also players and teammates of Adam Johnson who publicly came out because Petgrave was getting so much hate mail and death threats. But even Adam Johnson's teammates were like sticking up for him and saying, well, you know what? We were there on the bench, we were there on the ice, and we saw firsthand the account of what happened. And yeah, they're defending him.
Well, yeah, I think no one ever expects, someone to be murdered on the ice, right? Your intention's never to kill someone on the ice, at least in that aspect. I mean, yeah, you could think of killing someone with a big hit, right? But no one's ever going to go out of their way to take a skate blade to someone's throat. That's never the want, but I mean, it's probably a good thing they're implementing them in higher stages of hockey now, because I'm pretty sure when you're younger you have to wear them, right? So it should have been something that never was gotten rid of, but yeah.
Yeah, you could be two guys on the ice who have the baddest of blood. You could be the two biggest rivalry towns, and then you're going to go out there. No one would ever think in their right mind as a human being, say, yeah, today I'm going to go kill that guy on the ice with my skate blade. That just doesn't happen. No one in their right mind thinks that, and this is the case of that not happening. This is just an unfortunate freak accident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the hockey code, and the code is that you hit someone due to the game and you hurt them, you're gonna have to fight somebody. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have to stand up for yourself because you took someone out or you hit someone dirty. Those plays happen, but there's always an accountability side that guys seem to actually step up and they accept that. I just refuse to believe that this happened on purpose because of just the way the hockey culture is and how you could hate the guy one day and then he could be traded to your team the next day and all that beef is gone. So, I just can't see it being an issue where he did it on purpose. The game's so fast. Things happen quick. It just is the worst accident ever. This, hopefully, will be the last time we ever see someone's neck get slit by a skate because it's brought to awareness. And I think Adam Johnson, unfortunately, deserves to be a hero for that because he's going to save who knows how many lives in the future of younger people, because now we've got the Western Hockey League implemented it, the EIHL where he was playing in England implemented it, and the AHL has now implemented it. The only thing I don't agree with is the NHL talking about grandfathering it in like they did with helmets and visors. This is a completely different thing. Yes, you could get head injuries and yes, eye injuries and stuff, but we're talking about saving lives here. Why does the NHL need to grandfather it in? So grandfathering is when a player in the league doesn't have to wear the gear until they retire, or until they can wear or not wear their whole career until they retire. But new players in the league have to wear the gear. So we're talking about Connor Bedard being an 18-year-old kid. Say he retires at 40, right? That's a whole career that he still went without having to wear neck guards. But the guy the year after him has to wear neck guards. To me, just make it mandatory. I wore them. It's not a big piece of equipment. It's not a big deal. And it protects you. I respect all the guys who've been wearing them. We saw Oshie, we saw Carlson. I'm forgetting the others, but we saw a lot of guys start wearing them. I think it was Pionk. Pionk was Adam Johnson's really close friend, I believe. So he wore it.
The general manager of the Jets actually just private chartered him out to England for the funeral procession. And I thought that was a pretty big gesture by the Winnipeg Jets general manager. So kudos to him for getting Adam Johnson's friends and teammates out there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But let me just ask you guys this right now. Just, do you think ageism really matters? Tell me, you're a 32-year-old hockey player. Do you think ageism is going to save you from a skate cut to the throat.
No,
It
definitely
shouldn't
not.
be grandfathered in. You know, you got guys like TJ Oshie who publicly just came out and said, I need to think about my family and my kids, you know? So he's wearing the neck guard. I think it should be mandatory. Doesn't matter what age, what level of hockey you're playing at. I think it should be mandatory for everybody because freak accidents happen, and Adam Johnson was the unfortunate case.
Well, I definitely agree that they should make it mandatory, but I also think that they should make the penalty for not wearing one a little bit higher than what they do for the no helmet. Because what did Bedard get? Like a $5,000 penalty for not wearing a helmet during his skate? I think if you're not wearing a neck guard, you should either get a game suspension or just forced off the ice by an official or something with a fine on top of that, maybe. Because if you want to make this a rule, and then, I mean, it's a good rule, it's life-saving, right? Like, you need to make the penalty a lot higher than a $5,000 fine because you're not wearing it.
And I like that the increment should be even higher, what you're alluding to, like each time that you refuse to wear. Like, do you boys remember a few episodes ago where we were breaking down the QMJHL's decision to ban fights? And now every time that there'd be a fight, or if the player kept engaging in fights, the penalties would be getting higher and higher. So do you think that if you're going to still refuse to wear that neck guard, should that be the case as well, implementing more and more stricter penalties towards the individual?
Absolutely.
I mean, if I'm a coach, I'm looking at you could be the best player on my team. If you come to me and tell me you're not going to wear a neck guard, well, have fun not stepping onto the ice, bud.
Yeah.
And let's be real too about why do every league that starts coming up and you're not allowed to wear a neck guard, or you don't have to wear a neck guard, why does it happen? It's because you want to be like the NHL players that don't wear them. Same thing with the side of helmets. You grow up playing your whole youth career, you have these ear shields in your helmets. Well, as soon as you get into the higher leagues, those aren't a mandatory piece of protective equipment like they are in youth leagues. Those get ripped off. Cages, not mandatory. Those get ripped off. So
Hurts like hell though when you get a slap shot to the side of the head, and he clips you in the ear. Like, you see how many guys have like little pieces of their ear just came right off.
it's happened 4 times this year. Just happened the other night. Happened to Maroon about a week ago. Like, it just keeps happening. And all you'd have to do is wear something you don't even notice is there when you have it on. And now I'm not saying I like the visors. I think it would save the owners a lot of money if they went to cages, but I get you want guys' faces easier to see. You want it to be more, recognizable, and you want guys to be showed off in that way. And I get it. And the players like it more too. You get to see a little better. So I get the aspects of the visor, and I don't think they should ever go away from that. But something like it's like mouth guards are mandatory. That's just for concussions. Like, yes, again, a major CTE, all that stuff's going on, but you also have helmets for the CTE with all that protective cushioning. You have nothing for the neck. Like, just make it mandatory. It makes no sense why it's not. It needs to be.
Well, think of the NFL, the Gridiron helmets. Like, they got full tinted visors over their helmet, and then you can hardly see the player's face. So what is the GM going out there saying? Like, oh yeah, we got fans in the stands, we're making our bucks, but these guys can't even see their faces. So should the NHL be like doing the same route, or should it be like, no, we got to make sure that everyone can see their face for fanfare? But you know what? I think this whole trend of like, oh, just because the older guys in the NHL are doing no visor, no earpiece, no neck guard, like, it's fashionable. No, I think player safety should really be on point, especially with the neck guard, because I don't care if it's a fashionable trend. I think player safety is 100% need to be focused on more.
Well,
And you don't notice it.
NFL's a little bit of a different story. You are banging faces with other guys, and hands are going in places. So, I mean, I could see why that's a little bit different than NHL. You're not going to see too many guys bashing faces or getting their hands stuck in the cage, right? So
That's fair. I mean, but just with the NHL, my only concern was that, when you got guys like shooting a 92-mile-an-hour snapshot, or if, you got guys coming on you knee on knee at 32 miles an hour skating down the ice, like, those are some pretty big hits, and the statistics shows that those are some of the hardest hits in professional sport. So that's just my only piece on it, boys.
Well, I'll say too, like, it takes stones to block a shot, like, no matter who you are, no matter what gear you have on. But the difference between like youth hockey and blocking shots and then going to junior and wearing a visor, you have a lower confidence rate. You have no idea where that puck is going to go. I've been hit when I was in youth in the cage 5 or 6 times, and what's nice is you don't even think about it. Right? You get hit in the cage with a full-on slap shot, you're like, oh, that was, you feel
a little
the
bit
shot.
of a head ringer.
Yeah, you feel the shot, but you don't break your jawbone or break your your orbital bone or your cheekbone, like these guys are having happen to them when they take these shots. Like, again, I don't think that they're going to get rid of visors, and I don't think that they should for cages because they just are still grandfathering the visors in with guys like Zach Bogosian not wearing them and stuff like that still. But, like, there's got to be something done for the neck guards because, again, it's a confidence thing. I feel more confident when I'm fully protected rather than not.
I think I would feel a little bit more safer being around sharper objects with my jugular being protected. I personally think.
Yeah, rest in peace, Adam Johnson. We don't want to move on without saying that for sure. We wish it didn't come to this, but honestly, he's a hockey hero for the steps that he's implementing for the rest of the hockey world. So we thank him for that.
I love how everyone's been tributing him as well throughout the last week now since it's unfolded. I mean, like, there were some soccer clubs in England honoring him in the 47th minute. Old teammates here, like the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, all came to center ice, and then you had the Ontario Reign of the AHL as well. So props to them. I mean, great tributes toward a good man on and off the ice.
All right, a hockey legend has retired in Jumbo Joe Thornton. We all thought he was going to go as long as Yager, but he seems to have been stepping away from professional hockey now, and he's moving on to next things. But typical Jumbo, he said in his retirement video, "You can catch me at the rink if you're looking for him." So his love for hockey is still there. He just knows that Father Time caught up to him. So all the respect to Jumbo Joe on his massive career and all that he did. He couldn't get the cup, but other than that, he pretty much dominated his whole career. So respect to him.
You'll be catching him at the rink in a month for the World Juniors for Team Canada.
Yep. Another retirement is Thomas Plekanec. He is also retiring from professional hockey. So another guy who had a great career, mainly in Montreal, just really was a pretty dominant two-way player for them throughout his career. So good to see him get to retire as well. Nicholas Backstrom is stepping away from the Capitals due to a hip injury. This sounds like it is the end of Nicholas Backstrom's career. He came back and tried for a couple games. It doesn't sound like he could do it. So unfortunately, he's got to be stepping away and will most likely announce his retirement once his contract runs up with the Capitals. On to some more different news with Shane Pinto being suspended 41 games for sports gambling.
Well, I got a big bone to pick with the NHL on this one. I mean, like, you got the biggest superstar in the world, Connor McDavid, an ex-NHL or Hall of Famer, Wayne Gretzky, always doing BetMGM Grand Casino commercials, But it's like, so you're getting these big spotlighted players to, do your fancy gambling commercials, but then you're going to ban guys who are not even playing for one. Two, was he not under contract still or waiting for his contract?
Wasn't under contract still.
Yeah, and then and he wasn't even betting. He's not a Pete Rose. He's not betting against his team here, Like, he was betting on other sports. So, like, why was it such a big deal for him to be using a gambling website and trying to make some money while he's waiting to play again? Like, it's just like saying, like, oh, hey, by the way, you're sponsored by BioSteel, but you're not going to be able to drink it. Like, it's just, I don't know what the NHL was thinking when you got guys doing BetMGM Grand Casino commercials, but yet they can't gamble. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll counter that just a little bit. Now, I agree that, like, they go a little overboard now. Like, it went from no gambling in sports to it being allowed to just hammered. Like, it's every 1 in 4 commercials is a gambling sports bet commercial, whatever you want to call it. And I get that, but they also do Budweiser. They do all those drinking commercials, right? And it's on the players to not become alcoholics just because they're sponsored, right? Like, look at the teams when they win. Like, Tampa got a Bud Light sponsorship through Kucherov from his infamous interview, right? Like, it's up to the players to not become alcoholics, even though they're sponsored by alcohol companies. So yes, they're hammering this hard, but it's also on the players to know what they can and can't do. Now, I get that Shane Pinto probably thought, I'm not under contract by the NHL right now. I am technically not tied to them, so I should be able to bet in the betting world on something other than the Ottawa Senators or the National Hockey League. Fair enough. He got caught, and I do think that it's way too harsh of a sentence. You're right. It's way too harsh. I mean, yes, luckily for him, it's contract or no contract. They backtracked it to the beginning of the year. So he's 12 games into it already, and they don't have to sign him until before December 1st. So he's got like a month left to miss games, and then he'll have like 20 games when he's signed. But, and I mean, it did Ottawa a favor because Ottawa's only going to sign him for the minimum. But I think it should have been like 15 games. That is, well, and if like, what did Kane get? I don't remember what Evander Kane got when that whole thing came out about gambling. Yeah, like he got. Here you go. Your prize is you get to get out of a crappy situation in San Jose, and you get to go sign with the Edmonton Oilers and play with Connor McDavid. Like, what a hard penalty he got.
Like, have you noticed when you're watching these NHL games on Sportsnet, like every 5 minutes or every commercial break, you're seeing one of these superstars on there, or even during the game, you'll see on the boards or in the Statcast, like saying like, oh, odds for so and so to win this game, or under and over props. Like, they're just shoving it down your throats, but yet they're going to penalize their players who are not even gambling on even anything going on in the National Hockey League that's going to even affect anything really going on in the hockey world. Like, just, I don't know. They're not Pete Rose, okay? They're not betting against their team here, trying to gain something out of it. So, I don't know.
Well, and then another stupid thing, I think. So, Riley and I got to go to Edmonton to watch the Heritage Classic. We'll get into that a little bit later, but you got these big arenas that have casinos built into them. Why are you doing that if you're trying to get players to not gamble? Like, I get it may be for the fan experience, but I still don't think they should put it in their home arenas if they're trying to get players to stay away from that kind of stuff.
Well, here's a funny one for you, too, is that the Rogers Center and Edmonton there, like, there's the casino attached to the building.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yeah, like when we went,
that's
we went
what
to
I was
visit
saying.
it.
In
we went to
Rogers
visit it,
Arena,
yeah.
there's...
Well, you want to hear something even funnier, is that the Center 200 in City, Nova Scotia, where the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles play, it's called the Center 200 because there's a casino there. It's literally a casino with an ice rink. So, like, it's just, even for the younger crowd, it's like, oh, wow, here's a casino, but then there's a hockey game going on, like, literally the pane of glass right there. Like, I don't know.
That's almost worse because you're dealing with 19 and 20-year-olds. Some of them have brand deals, and some of them have things going on that give them a little bit of money, and then they can just walk from the arena and go gamble like that. That's not sports betting, so it's
glass
not.
Doors, yeah.
It's not again. Like look at Vegas. Like when guys go to Vegas, they're gambling because they can, and like I don't know that. Yeah, in Cape Breton there, that's weird.
I don't know if you guys know this about Vegas, but Vegas actually, when they draft guys or older, younger guys, I don't know which town they go, but they actually don't have their younger players stay in Vegas due for that reason.
I think it's Henderson.
Yeah, but they keep them away from that lifestyle at first, anyways.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you come into $800,000, and everyone goes to the casino every now and then. You lose a couple $100 or whatever, but those guys, their signing bonuses are $40,000. Yeah. You can easily spend that in a night at a casino.
Oh, they could base their signing bonus immediately.
Like, go buy a car. Right? At least you can sell it if you regret it.
Yeah.
Like, we have a couple things on the LGBTQ community that have gone on in the NHL recently. The Kraken trainer has come out as the first openly gay support staff member. Travis Dermott, this was just before that, Travis Dermott went against the NHL and used pride tape on his stick, which then caused the NHL to rescind its ban on social cause tape. And then, corresponding that, it seemed like the Kraken staff member was feeling comfortable enough to come out as the first openly gay staff member. So, good job for Dermott for sticking up. I did see someone saying, like, good on Dermott because he's on a 1 year. He's not guaranteed to be in the league, and he kind of pushed back against it. And it was good to see that someone kind of stood up and kind of fought against what the NHL was saying when I thought that they went too harsh by banning all nights, because it's not just about Pride Night. It's also about Military Night. It's about Remembrance Day. It just everything. It was all circulated into one thing, and they just threw it all in the trash and said you can't support anything. And I think that was too wrong. I think that they should have just let people choose to wear the jerseys if they wanted to. Like the Russians, like, who cares if the Russians don't want to wear it because it's not in their culture? Like, it's just, it is what it is. If you say you have to wear the jersey and then someone doesn't wear it, it's a story. If you say you have the choice and someone doesn't wear it, it's just a statistic. It's not as aggressive.
Yeah, I don't think any of those nights should be forced on a player. I think it should definitely be, your willingness to do it. And I mean, kudos to Dermott for definitely repping the rainbow tape there. I think that's awesome for him. And I mean, that's awesome for the fans too, to see that players are willingly showing their compassion, I guess, for these other people.
Everyone should have, free choice. If they're doing theme nights, like, sure, fine, participate. But if you're not, don't just make a random story out of it saying, oh, they just hate it. Like, no, maybe, you know what? Maybe they have their own beliefs, their own opinions. Leave it at that, okay? They're their own individual. Stop making this all public and political. You know what I'm saying? Like, just let the guys be, They want to participate, great. If not, carry on. And
the NHL owns the media rights to their own stuff. Like, why don't you go ahead and you tell the media people that are going into each room, if you go to a Russian and you directly go up to him and are basically like, why are you not wearing pride? And you know the answer because they're Russian and because of what they believe in. You know what the answer is. It's not in their beliefs. But the NHL needs to say, if you directly go up to that guy and that's the question you ask him first thing out of your mouth, we're taking away your pass. Like, you're not here to stir stuff in the media because of a guy's personal beliefs. You're here to talk about hockey. You're here. The team lost 10-0, and the first thing that the reporter will go up and say, "Oh, you didn't wear the Pride jersey."
Negative headline.
Yeah,
that's all they want.
Exactly.
They want to center them out and then make them look hateful, but that's not what it is. Like, you just have to just focus on the hockey aspect. Stop trying to make it political or center someone out because of their beliefs. All right. Everyone is entitled to be their own person and choose what they want to do, right? So I hate how the media has been portraying a lot of things like that. So
exactly, and that's just what the NHL needs to do. They just need to control what those media people can say to their people, and they should also give the players the reassurance that if someone comes up to them and asks them that question,
they should be able to say next question.
Yeah, they can say next question, no comment, or even, the rules in the league. You can leave now. Like,
or just walk out of or be able to walk out of that room and, comfortable without being fined because you didn't answer the question. But
100%.
You should never be forced to answer a question you're uncomfortable with answering. But yeah.
I'm all for it. Like, you guys make millions of dollars. People want to see you on TV. They want to see how you handle a loss. They want to see how you handle a win. They want to see how you handle the fight. They want to see all these things. They don't need to see what you handle behind closed doors. Like, that's not what we care about. Mm-hmm. And the media loves to spin, because it's a huge political part, is a huge part of the world. But hockey is not supposed to be involved in that. You're supposed to get away from the political world when you go to a sporting event by including everyone who's involved in the arena. Right? Like, now a staffer has come out as gay. You have Luke Prokop who came out as gay in the WHL. Like, you have these guys who need to feel included, and now you're kind of excluding them by just saying it's all banned. So I'm glad Dermott did it. I'm glad they rescinded it. I'm happy that this guy felt comfortable enough to come out. A little bit more unfortunate news was Rick Bowness had to take a leave of absence from the Winnipeg Jets to be with his wife who had a seizure. So we just want to note that we hope she's doing okay. Rick Bowness, being a longtime assistant coach with Tampa Bay, so I followed him very closely. And I really like him as a coach, and as he went to Dallas and took them to the Cup final, it was just a cool story. So I hope that their family's doing okay. I hope that there's not any major lingering effects, and that his life can return to normal as soon as possible. Auston Matthews has signed with Prime as their first hockey player. So that is Logan Paul and KSI's drink, Prime, their energy drink. Auston Matthews has become their first hockey player. And I don't know if he's their first North American athlete or not, but in one of the top pro sports. I don't know if he... No, they have football players, don't they?
I don't think they're in the football market, no. I think it's soccer and UFC.
Okay, so he might be the first top 5 sports league in the U.S. that has a contract with Prime, which is awesome to see. You love to see the game grow like that. We talked about when BioSteel kind of was going under, maybe Prime
I
coming
wonder
in.
if this is their... getting their foot in the door for that, maybe, to see if they can become the NHL's drink. I mean, they've already became UFC's official drink and have fighters sponsored on top of that. So who knows, right?
Oh, and Prime is so popular right now amongst the common crowd, so it'd be smart as a business decision for KSI and Logan Paul to be doing this. Get that foot in the door, like you said, and because you already know about the BioSteel story. We've already covered that, so this is a prime opportunity for them to come in and say, "We got you guys."
No pun intended.
No pun
Prime
intended.
opportunity. But hey, we'll shoot our shot. Prime. You're looking for a hockey podcast sponsor. We'll take some Prime. Charlie McAvoy was suspended 4 games for hitting to the head of Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I thought that was a pointless hit. I don't know what he was doing in the offensive zone anyways, cutting across the net and just absolutely wiping Ekman-Larsson's face off his head. But well-deserved. I think that it came right after the Rasmus Andersson hit, which cost him 4 games. And I just thought that they were trying to stay consistent with it. But I thought that Ekman-Larsson's was a little worse than the hit on Line A.
Well, in the league was saying how they want to implement this a stern punishment. Well, where's the punishment on Mangiapane's hit to the back of what's his name there on Seattle? McCann.
Right, yeah, the cross-check.
He cross-checked McCann in the back of the head towards the ice, and he only got a 1-game suspension. And Rasmus Andersson's hit, I mean, the other guy saw it coming. To me, it looked like it might not have been clean, but
it was the least intentional. Of the three.
It was the least intense one of the 3 for sure, and he got a 4-game, missed the Heritage Classic, but you got other guys that are getting less for doing more. So where's the fairness, right?
Yeah, the consistency is still missing in the disciplinary department.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still falling off. Because, look, I love Mangiapane. He works hard. He's a great player. He's a depth player, but he crossed the line.
Yeah. I get he's a player that he doesn't do this too often in his career. It was a weird thing to see come from him for sure, but I think just because it's maybe your first time offense that you shouldn't, they shouldn't not give you a decent penalty if everyone else is getting these 3-4 game suspensions and you're only getting a 1. You want to implement it, then implement it. Everyone gets the same punishment, not one gets less, one gets more.
Exactly. A little bit sad news as well is that Freddie Anderson was diagnosed with a blood clot, and he's going to be out for indefinitely from the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, good news for him is Steven Stamkos got this a couple years ago. He got a blood clot. He's back. He's healthy. He hasn't had any issues since they dealt with it. I don't know what medication he's got to be on, or
Blood thinners.
Yeah, if he's still on them or if he's off them, I'm not sure. But obviously, since then, he's won 2 Stanley Cups, went to a 3rd final, and has played extremely well since then. So hopefully, for Freddie Anderson, this is a null and void point, and he's just going to be able to come back and play his usual self for Carolina. Also, goalie news: Jack Campbell got sent down to Bakersfield in the minors by the Edmonton Oilers, which has started their downfall. So we're going to get into that when we cover our Western Conference here in a few minutes. But Jack Campbell led in 4 goals his first game with Bakersfield, just a couple ducks right in the net, and you just got to feel bad for the guy that is just falling all off the wagon for him. So
yeah, this is definitely just another bad case of playing really good your contract year, you get your bag, and you just fall off the face of the earth. And unfortunately, Edmonton had a lot of hype behind this team, especially for this year. You had McDavid and Draisaitl both say, cup or bust. Well, your season's looking a lot like a bust here, boys.
Well, even the AHL crowd last night when they were playing Abbotsford was literally just hammering into Jack Campbell, just letting him have it. Oh my goodness. You led the team out on the ice, for warm-ups. And then, 4 goals on 20 shots. And one of them was just absolutely bonkers, just right under the pad, and which should have been an easy save for him. It was just everything going on with the whole organization throughout the Oilers organization has just been going absolutely downhill. They just cannot catch a break. And then there's just so much speculations. Even today I saw a post where, apparently Woodcroft isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Allegedly, but that could be speculations. And, I was looking at Woodcroft and the assistant walking off the ice last night. As this video is recording, Edmonton lost to the San Jose Sharks last night. And basically, he looked at him and said, "I think I'm done." And Buddy says to him next to him, "Yep." So who's to say what's next for the Edmonton Oilers? Like, do they need a huge seismic shakeup, or is there going to be small tweaks? But something's got to give with these guys because there's no heart and soul out there.
Well, keeping it on topic of the Oilers, let's talk about the Heritage Classic game. Like Dakota mentioned, we had the awesome fortune of being able to go to the game and watch it live. It was just such a cool experience. There was 55,000 people there. It was absolutely freezing. We ran into other podcasters like the Oil Change podcast. You guys should give them a listen. We're going to be doing some future stuff with them. And we just got to be immersed in that Alberta hockey culture. And it was a ton of fun. Probably one of the coolest things after the game. We'll get to the game. But, you left the arena and, you're at the hotel or you were out for dinner or whatever. Everyone that you were running into was at the game. And it was like this brotherhood. When you saw them.
For a Battle of Alberta rivalry game, the fans were awesome in the sense that you didn't have to feel scared or feel like someone was going to jump you for wearing the opposite team, right?
Unless you were me.
Yeah, you were wearing a Tampa Bay jersey and around Flames crowd. Like, that was probably a bad idea there, bud.
Yeah.
But there was other jerseys. There was Colorado. There was a Florida. There was
Anaheim.
There was Anaheim.
London Knights.
But, there was a good mix of Calgary and Edmonton, and there wasn't really a whole lot of, bad-mouthing, maybe until near the end. I think I heard a few people when I was walking out say, go back to Alberta, or go back to Calgary, and it's just, we have the same record, man. But, no.
Not anymore, you're better now.
Yeah, we're better now, but it was all in good fun, and, no one, like I said, no one's, spitting on you or, telling you,
no fights. There was no fights.
No fights. Everyone had a good sense of humor with it, so that was definitely cool to see.
At least you guys didn't have beer dumped on you.
Yeah.
True. We did not have beer dumped on us.
Well, yeah, so the game, I'll tell you, Connor McDavid is fast. He didn't have the most impactful game, but holy cow, watching him get up the ice is unreal how fast he is out there. I was watching everyone, but you couldn't not see McDavid's speed out there. It was just another element that you can't believe it until you see it.
Oh yeah, if you don't even have to be a fan of the Oilers, but if you have the chance to see McDavid for the first time wherever you live or wherever you go to go see him, it's definitely worth it. He is an unreal athlete, but unfortunately he was kind of unnoticeable that game. I think he got an assist, but other than that, he wasn't really relevant other than his speed.
Yeah. And, we talked to the Oil Change guys, I had mentioned that it was probably going to be a gritty game. And right off the bat, the first goal was scored by Brett Kulak. A guy you would not expect to score.
Yeah, a guy that doesn't score often. And kind of cool that he did it on his ex-team, right? So
yeah, that would have been cool for him.
And guy's a Edmonton area native, too, of Stony Plain. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And honestly, the arena was well done. I've never been in an arena with that many people before. We literally tried to go to the washroom in the first intermission, and we made it 20 impossible. Steps. We made it to the 50-50 and went, yeah, we'll take some of that. And
yeah,
and sat
we're
back down.
We can wait till the end of the game on this one.
Yeah, there was no way. We're too cold. It's just gonna stay frozen. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. We went to the pop up tents they had there to shop. At one point, we walked past the Flames' wives and girlfriends. We saw them all wearing their custom toques with all their numbers on it. So that was cool to kind of see their families just walking around the concourse like everybody else before the game. It was a really cool event. We think Edmonton did a great job with it. It was a lot of fun to take part in. And it just felt like this whole brotherhood of people who were having a blast together, freezing their butts off and just cheering on a good hockey game.
Yeah.
All right, on episode 10 of the Gameday Tarps podcast, we went over the Eastern Conference and where we thought teams were going to line up. We are a little bit into the season. We're a month into the season now that we are recording this one, but we're still going to go through. We're going to kind of talk about where we thought teams were going to be versus where they are now, Edmonton Oilers, exactly. And we're going to be going over where we think teams can still end up and who we think is going to run the West like Vegas, Colorado still are. So, we have in the Pacific Division the Anaheim Ducks. They added Killorn, Gudis, Lybushkin, Stalock, Haig, And they subtracted Comtois, Shattenkirk, Grant, Yolevi, Moore, Stolars, Beaulieu, and Magna. Oh, and Delzato. They have Nathan Gaucher, Zellweger, Leo Carlson, who's up, and Mintyukov, who's up, as their top prospects. They have picks in the 1 pick in the first, 2 in the second, 3 in the third, 4 in the fourth, 1 fifth, 1 sixth, and 1 seventh in this year's draft. So they're going to be looking to add to that, I think, this year, getting a couple more picks. The guys who we think could be traded this year are John Gibson, Max Jones, Robert Hagg, or Ilya Lyubushkin, and I have them in 7th in the Pacific. Where do you guys see the Anaheim Ducks? I don't think that's changed a month into the year that they're going to be second last in the division.
Well, I got a hot take for Anaheim on this one. I really think going into this year, with the way how Pavel Mintyukov has been playing, he is definitely going to contend with Bedard for that Calder Trophy. I really do think so. He is a very good rookie, and he has been proving it on the ice for the Ducks that he belongs there.
That's a good call.
You know, he was fairly strong for Saginaw last year when he got traded for that haul of picks to the Ottawa 67s for that deep playoff push. Like, this guy was just shining, and he is going to be a force to reckon with come the next few seasons for sure. But I honestly see Anaheim coming 5th or 4th, honestly. The highest I'll see them kind of level out as the season continues here.
I think it definitely is going to depend on whether or not they are going to trade guys like Gibson if he does want out, or, you know, maybe he wants to see how this season goes. But I also think it's going to depend on how well Zegras plays this year. To me, I think he's an overhyped player, but that could be an early take, but he's not doing it for the team this year. He got his money. I mean, I guess he didn't get the money he wanted. He got a little bit lower, but he hasn't earned anything that's worth like to have a big contract, right? And it's showing this year too.
Well, you and I had a great topic of debate the other day on this about Trevor Zegras. Like, he can be all flashy with the moves and the stick handles all he wants, but is he really worth that bag of money? Like, this guy has been not producing for the Ducks. Like, great, you're gonna get guys in the stands to watch you, do a couple sick dekes. Oh, you're so cool, buddy, but you're not potting them in the net. You're not setting up your teammates. Like, he has been one, I think, 6 players through the first 11 games with not even 4 points. Like, this is how much this guy has dropped off since his draft year. Like, this has just become ludicrous. Like, Anaheim overpaid him. He's overhyped. And I think if this continues, Anaheim should be considering selling him for some draft picks.
Well, I think they have to trade this year, like Gibson especially. I think they're doing themselves a disservice if they think that they're going to get to 4th or 5th and then go to the playoffs. And then, what? They play Vegas? They play Colorado? They get run over in the first round, and then now they have a late teens pick, and it's for nothing. Like, they're not at that point yet. They're still rebuilding. Their goal should be to be right in the top 5 at the bottom of the league again, right? If they're going to continue this rebuild. They brought in Alex Killorn on a 4-year deal, so like the last 2 years of his deal, they're a playoff team, and he can bring his playoff experience so that after he's gone, that group of guys can go forward without him.
Well, John Gibson's been on the trade rumor block for I don't know how many years now. Like, just move the guy. You clearly know he's not happy there. But I'll level with you. Anaheim has been exceeding expectations a little bit here. And do you know who their best player has been? Mason McTavish.
He has.
Who was a 3rd pick in, 21?
Yep.
20? Yeah, 21. And then I think Carlson was a 2nd, But, I mean, those guys are producing better than the guy that's supposed to be one of your superstars, Zegras, right? And, so if Zegras isn't doing anything, I think they're still in good hands with Carlson and McTavish there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple trades. I know you guys have seen these, but I'm going to run one on this here. I have 2 for the West, so I'll say them as we go through the teams that are there. But one was for Anaheim. I'm saying Edmonton gets John Gibson, Cam Fowler, and Frank Vetrano. That costs them $16.5 million. And they trade to Anaheim Leon Draisaitl, Jack Campbell, Warren Fogle, and Vincent Desharnais, and that gets out $17 million. Now, I know you're losing Leon Draisaitl, and a lot of Oilers fans are upset at that. But if there's one person you can get rid of, it's Draisaitl, because you don't need two superstars right now. You need better defense. You need a better goaltender, and you need depth scoring. Those three players from Anaheim, Gibson, Fowler, and Vetrano, solve all three of those issues. It gets Campbell's contract off your team to a team that's rebuilding then and won't care about the contract. You unfortunately lose Fogle, who's been doing pretty decent this year, but you lose Desharnais, who's had a terrible start to the year, and you don't give up any of your top 4D. You don't give up any young prospects, and you're not really losing forward depth. You do just lose Draisaitl, but it's at honestly a better reward. So what are your guys' thoughts on that trade?
Well, I was actually asked the same thing. What's your thoughts? Like, would you rather the fanfare of getting guys in the stands to watch Leon Draisaitl, one of the best German hockey players of all time, lacing up, or would you rather get a great haul for him who could actually get you guys out of the basement right now? Because Draisaitl has not been there at all this season. Yes, he has over 10 points. Great. But you know what? What's the win-loss record of the Edmonton Oilers right now? Both him and McDavid even. He has one goal since October 17th. This is his longest goal drought since 2017. Like, what is going to light a fire under McDavid and Draisaitl's ass to get them performing again up to the their expectations? So I think with Draisaitl's trade value plummeting a little bit, not by a lot, but plummeting, I think the Anaheim haul right there would make sense because they would get a very good scoring depth piece to be on that first line with Troy Terry and potentially Mason McTavish. Then who is Edmonton getting? Frank Vetrano, John Gibson, who are very desperate for a goaltender, just sending down Jack Campbell. Stuart Skinner, oh my god, yay, he was with the Swift Current Broncos, won upon a time in the 2018 Memorial Cup and killed it. He had a great rookie season for Edmonton. Now he is shit. So you cannot rely on him. And you can't rely on Calvin Pickard coming up from the Bakersfield Condors, a rookie who's coming into a shit show to come save your asses. I'm sorry, but you know what? I think John Gibson would be an excellent piece for the Edmonton Oilers going forward.
I don't think Pickard's a rookie anymore.
Well, he would because he's never played more than 25 games in a year.
Huh.
I think unless he's 28. You end rookie status at 28, I believe.
But here's my thoughts on your trade. It's a decent trade, like to the eye, I guess, but I don't see a trade involving Draisaitl without picks going one way. And I don't think Anaheim would want to give up a first for Draisaitl, at least not for at least next year or whatever, just so soon, because obviously they're still wanting to do the rebuild route, but I just don't see a trade like that happening unless there's picks involved.
And here's why, for Oilers fans that are listening, why did he pick Draisaitl of all the players? Well, let's go through this. Connor McDavid, full 100% no move clause. Zach Hyman, full 100% no move clause. Vander Kane, no move clause, 100%. Nugent Hopkins, no move clause, 100%. Darnell Nurse, no move clause, 100%. And what is... Ekholm doesn't have one. And then Draisaitl is the only one with just a 10-team no-trade list, which means 22 other teams he can be traded to in the NHL. Of all the stars who they can trade, he is the only star they can trade. And let's talk about the next 3 years. 2 years, Draisaitl runs out of contract. What are they going to have to pay him? $13 million? They have no cap today. How are they going to fit that in?
They just used all their nickels, dimes, and pennies to get Evan Bouchard locked up before the start of the season. If I were Ken Holland, I would be begging Anaheim for some good prospects because, in my opinion, Seattle right now, Anaheim, they have some of the best farms in all of the National Hockey League. Like, I would be asking for the Nathan Gauthiers, maybe the Owen Zellwegers, if they were willing to part with them. But you know what? At least get something good in return in that aspect if they didn't want to give up, say, Frank Vetrano. But just at least get something for the future so you have someone locked in there, to carry your blue line or carry your bottom six for the rest of the few years.
Well, the problem is with that is, like you said, the Oilers said cup or bust. So prospects do nothing for them today. Like, that's why I didn't include picks and I didn't include prospects. It's like instead of picks, it's the fact that Anaheim's taking Campbell's crappy contract. That is part of it. And then you got Draisaitl basically being traded for the other guys, and then Fogle and Desharnais are just cap casualties as well to make the trade feasible. But it's like, I just think that teams know Edmonton's desperate. They know they need cap space. They know in 2 years, they know Leon Draisaitl is going to be a free agent. Because how is Edmonton, with Jack Campbell and his $5 million, how are they going to get out of it? So, for me, they're desperate. They don't have any leverage. And they're going to have to give a little bit more of a sweetener on their end to get a trade to go through for someone, especially a division rival like Anaheim, to say, here's our best goalie, our most tenured defenseman, and a guy who started really hot this year as a depth scorer for us. Here you go. And all we're really getting in this trade is Leon Draisaitl and Fogle, who is not consistent, and Desharnais, who is borderline an NHL defenseman, and then Jack Campbell, who you guys literally just paid $5 million and sent him to the minors. So, like, Anaheim's not looking at much positives other than Draisaitl, and they're not in the win now window anyway, so it's like he wouldn't necessarily be the most important thing, because what is he, 20? How old is he?
Draisaitl?
Yeah, 27? 28. He's 28. So let's say they take 5 more years to win. He's like 33. He doesn't really fit their window. So to me, I think it's a fair trade, and it's something that Edmonton should consider, because you have Connor McDavid, and obviously the Connor and Draisaitl tandem works, but the Connor and Leon team does not work, and they need to change it up.
Well, it's just because his team solely relies on those guys to bring it every night, but none of their depth guys are picking it up for them either.
It's because they can't pay anyone to come and be a depth guy, which
exactly
sucks. So that was Anaheim, even though it was Edmonton. So we have some mixed spots on them. We have the Calgary Flames next. They add Sharangovich, Osterley, and that was it. And they subtract Toffoli, Stone, Lucic, Lewis, Phillips, Milosh, Stetcher, and Ritchie. Their top prospects have almost all played in the NHL now this year. They have Wolf, who they just called up today. Coronado, who played a couple games to start the year. Honzik, Peltier, who's injured. Zary, who is playing right now. And Poirier. The draft picks that Calgary has are a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th. We think guys who could be traded are Hanifin, Lindholm, Backlund, Tanev, Killington, and Zadorov. So basically, or Shillington and Zadorov, basically they're guys who are all on the last year of their contract. And I have them at 5th in the Pacific. Where do you guys see the Calgary Flames finishing?
Well, 5th is like above wild card, right?
I have them in a wild card. So 5th, I have 5 in the Pacific and 3 in the Central. So they are in the playoffs in my view.
So at the beginning of the year, I would have maybe agreed with that, but with how things are going with them right now, yeah, they might be on a little bit of a hot start or hot run now, even though they just lost to Toronto tonight in a shootout. I don't see this team going far. Huberdeau, again, is having a very poor start to his season. Sharangovich has not been the scorer that we thought he was. Coronado was 2 points in 10 games before being sent down, I believe. Scored his first AHL goal in his first game, but I think has been fairly quiet since. I do love their younger players that they've called up. I love Zary. I mean, everybody here knows I have a signed Zary Flames jersey all made up, so that's awesome to see him come in and be 4 points in 4 games. Martin Pospisil, a big guy that loves to lay the body and definitely has skill with the puck. Dustin Wolf, I think, definitely needs to make an NHL spot. So I don't know if you mentioned Vladar being a possible trade candidate.
I did not, but I should have.
But yeah, I think Calgary is a team that definitely needs to start sitting down and being like, okay, well, is it time for the rebuild now? Because the guys that we thought were going to bring us to the playoffs, they're not doing it. And yeah, having Tanev and Zadorov and Dubé and Hanifin and Lindholm all being on the final years of their contracts, well, that's probably best case scenario to start the rebuild, knowing that you have Kadri on a 7-year, $7 million per year contract, and Huberdeau to an unfortunate $10.5 million contract for the next 8 years.
So why I put them fifth was assuming that, as always, a team is going to be too stubborn to do anything with all the guys they need to trade. Nothing's going to happen in the season. And that they're going to finish the year. They're barely going to get into the playoffs, just like they did with Gaudreau and, well, I guess they were a good team with Gaudreau and Tkachuk. But they didn't get their contracts dealt with, made it into the playoffs, didn't make it all the way to the cup or win the cup, and then those guys left or demanded to leave. We already know Hanifin doesn't want to be there. I think he's just playing the game now when he's saying, oh, I'm thinking about it or whatever. Like, no, he doesn't want to be there. He's just waiting until the year ends. Lindholm, if he really wanted to be there and if the Flames wanted to pay him what he's worth to the team, he would be signed. Backlund, we put Backlund, sorry, I guess since then Backlund's been signed, so we'll take Backlund off because he's only a 2-year deal. Switch him with Vladar. 3-year deal, sorry, thank you. We got Tanev on his last year, and we hear Toronto is really hard in on him and Zadorov. And Shillington, who apparently still can't play. To me, this got to be something mental because he came to camp, like you noted to me, and then all of a sudden he wasn't playing. He's taking more personal time.
Yeah, they deemed him unfit for ice, I believe, at the fitness training or whatever, and there hasn't been a peep from that side since.
Yeah.
So I think even if he were to come back and be a great player, that's a huge gamble to take, I think, for a guy to not be skating with this team for almost, if he sits this whole year, it'll be 2 full years that he hasn't stepped foot with this team.
Well, I just hate it for him because how many years was he in trade speculation because he was the 7th or 8th D, up and down from the minors. He finally got his shot with Tanev, had a wicked year, really solidified your guys' team when you guys were the top team in the West. Mm-hmm. And then the next year, personal issues, whatever they may be, hopefully it's not something way beyond thinkable, but obviously it is because he's not playing. But personal issues, misses the whole year. We think it's Sutter. We think Sutter's ragging on him or whatever, and he couldn't handle it or whatever. And then Sutter's gone now. He shows up at camp. Okay, it's confirmed. It was Sutter who was the problem, and now here he is, still not there.
Well, and it also seemed like a Sutter problem because it was almost like the day after that Sutter was fired. I think there was a statement that was said that he was excited to come back to the team, start skating with the team again, and yet hasn't. Yeah. Like, he hasn't played hockey since Tkachuk and them were last on this team, basically.
Yeah.
And now there's all new bodies, and he has no chemistry with anybody.
And if he's good enough, he's an important piece for this team.
Well,
Playing
for sure
his chemistry with Tanev, if it's there, was unmatched in the league. Their pairing was unreal.
Yeah.
Compared to some, it was like that year. It was like Makar and Taze, and Tanev and Shillington in the West. They were like the best 2 D pairings in the whole Western Conference.
Well, now if you're going to get rid of Tanev and you take your gamble on Shillington when he comes back, who's he going to play with? Yeah. Is he going to be, again, a guy that you consider your 7th or 8th D? Is it going to be another Valimaki situation where he keeps getting called up and sent down, and the one time you send him down, he gets claimed? But I don't think that's going to be like a big loss to Calgary. Personally, I don't think Shillington is...
Well, he's not there now. So
yeah, he's not a big key. And Calgary, I think, doesn't like... They don't have a whole big prospect pool for defensemen, but, they definitely have a couple good guys that I want to see make this team, like Jeremy Poirier. I definitely want to see up. ETN one day would be cool to see up there, but I don't see Shillington staying with this team much longer.
What do you see in Calgary this year, Dally?
I'm seeing a lot of insufficient productivity from your best players. Like, there needs to be more accountability from an outside perspective. Like, I'm not a Flames fan, but I'm watching certain games and I'm seeing a lot of, wow, like, what is going on with the Flames right now? Like, Huberdeau, absolutely horrendous. And I'm sorry, Dakota, but, like, like I said, from an outside perspective, like you had one of the best players coming over from the Florida Panthers for Matthew Tkachuk, and he's been a totally different person. Like Huberdeau has not been up to expectations. Like he can hardly give a pass or take a pass, shoot the puck. Like the other night, he got benched for a whole third period, and like he admits it. Like it hurt, and he has to take accountability. He's got to look himself in the mirror. But like, what the hell is going on in Calgary? Like it's bad enough up north with Edmonton, but Calgary, like you guys were dominant in the West like the last few seasons, and ever since Tkachuk and Gaudreau left, they were dominant. But it's just like some of your star players, like Nazem Kadri was a big player on that list. Remember we were talking about, the first 11 games with Zegras with like held to like maybe a point or two. Well, Nazem Kadri's there too. Like you guys just locked him down for a big bag of money, extended amount of years, and then he himself has been doing absolutely nothing. So like I don't know what the Flames organization should do. I don't know what Craig Conroy should be thinking, but if this trend keeps going downhill, I think maybe some seismic shifts should be made.
Well, in Kadri's defense, since the call-up of Zary, he has gotten a point, I think, off of almost all of Zary's points. So at least Kadri and Sharon Govich, for that matter, have been stepping up, and that line have been helping each other out. So that's awesome to see as a Flames fan. Huberdeau not finding the right line to be on is a little concerning when you're paying that guy that much money. Like, that's almost an immovable player for Calgary, I think. But that being said, I think you have that one guy or those two guys making that much money for that many years. That's almost a force for you to like force yourself to rebuild, because you're going to want younger guys that make less money. And that's just how you're going to have to build this team for a while.
Well, you of all people should know this, and I love it too. Calgary has a great farm system. They got some very talented and exciting prospects coming through the pipeline right now. Like Connor Zary, former Kamloops Blazer, just made his debut a couple games ago, and he's been a point-per-game player ever since. Like, he needs to be the type of guy, and we've talked about this the other day, Dakota, like the younger generation of players coming up. Look how excited Zary was when he scored his first goal. He could hardly contain his excitement. Huberdeau should be looking for that and even playing on his line and saying, wow, he's going to make me want to, be excited to play hockey again, and just really, light a fire under his ass and get him going again. So I think with, younger players like Zary coming up and, like maybe a Jeremy Poirier coming up on the D, like just even Dustin Wolf in net, helping Markstrom, backing him up as the backup. But like just these younger guys should be coming up to the Calgary Flames and just making it more exciting to come to the locker room each and every day and getting these guys to get going and winning more games.
Well, I think unfortunately for Huberdeau's case, I think his young guy is Jacob Pelche, who is injured for the next 4 to 6 months, unfortunately, on a contract year, which is... That kind of sucks for Calgary because we don't get to see what he's made of this year for a little bit anyways.
Well,
he's looking good in preseason.
Yeah.
Pelche was killing it when he played for Val-d'Or too. So like it's an exciting prospect. Yeah, he had some setback, but don't count him out.
Oh, definitely.
You got to let him shine. You have to have his spotlight in the NHL before you make any rash decisions.
All right, back to the Edmonton Oilers for the 10th time this episode, but that's okay. You were telling me a story there, Dally. Why don't you tell it?
Well, it was actually 13 years to the day, actually. I was at the WFCU Center watching the Spitfires versus the London Knights, and before the whole the rule came into effect where the goalies cannot play the puck in the corner, there was a London player who came charging and just rammed Jack Campbell into the glass. Like, really just set him off and knocked him. So, I mean, it was just a hard freaking hit. And I just remember, like, how intense the arena got when, the player hit him. But, yeah, it's just thinking of that coming now to present day, like, it's just Jack Campbell's been, like, almost wobbly, like, as if he got hit, recently. It's just... he needs to find his footing, or Edmonton's got to drop him. Like, okay, you jump from Dallas, you jump from LA, you jump to Edmonton. Like, when's this guy going to find... Oh, and sorry, Toronto was the big one. Edmonton thought they were getting an absolute steal. He came off a hot start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, oh my God, yay, starting goaltender. Like, and he was great for Toronto. Don't get me wrong, but just Jack Campbell has not been living up to the $5 million. I'm going to be completely honest with you, boys. That is such hot garbage that the Edmonton Oilers have to pay your top goalie that you thought you were getting now for the Bakersfield Condors of the AHL. And he let in 4 goals his first game. Like, wow. Talk about a dumpster fire.
All right, so the Oilers add Gleason, Kajula, Brown. They subtract Bukestad, Murray, Clefbaum, Cuckoo, Benson, and Shore. They pretty much have no cap. They're in the negative at the moment. Their 2024 draft picks available are a first, a second, a fifth, a sixth, and a seventh. So they have really not a ton of trade options out there for the draft side. Their prospects are guys like Dylan Holloway, Raphael Lavoie, and Olivier Rodrigue, the goalie. Players who we could see be traded are Jack Campbell, Philip Broberg, Savoy, Desharnais, and Niemelainen. Now, I had them first in the Pacific. Obviously, that's not going to happen. They're too far into the season to catch Vegas's point total as they get to the end. But I still see them as second or third in the Pacific once they figure out what they're doing. If they do. And that's my take.
I think just to add another player to your trade list there, I believe Ryan McLeod's name has been around the rumors recently too. But yeah, no, Edmonton I had high. I think I had them first in the West, I believe, but it is still early. But I mean, you're losing to the team that was dead last, San Jose Sharks, and now you've taken that from them. I do want to see Edmonton turn it around, and I think it's going to take a key player getting traded for depth players to really be like, wow, this team's serious about winning this year. And I mean, they should be. I mean, McDavid held a private meeting with the players at the beginning of this year. What has that done?
My only thoughts with this is if this is going to snowball even faster than it has been already, like, just tank, okay? The 2024 draft is going to be very deep. Like, you guys got, like, Sam Dickinson, Cerbellini, you got Berkeley Catton, and Jerome McGinley's son, TJ Ginla, who has been killing it for Kelowna. And these are going to be the top, like, some of the top 10 guys going into this year's draft. And I think Edmonton has a shot at getting a star player to help them build for their future. Because, like, yeah, all these little trades for these depth forwards that are, you know, older guys, like, you know what? Start building for the future. You know, you traded Ray Schaefer to the Nashville Predators. Like, that was a bad move in my opinion. He was a great piece for the Seattle Thunderbirds there. Yep. But, I mean, Edmonton has a first and a second coming up this year. They don't have a third. But use this draft going in to start building some good pieces. Because, man, this... Just trading for older guys just ain't working for you.
Here's my thing on that, though. How many top 10 picks is it going to take Edmonton to be a contender team? They've had a good chunk of top 10 picks in the last, I'm going to say 15 years. And
I don't think the fan base will accept it.
And they're still a bottom feeder team right now.
Two of them were, everyone knows they were horrendous. Like, but obviously McDavid, yeah, it's McDavid. But when you got Taylor Hall and then Neil Yakupov, who's been Nugent Hopkins, I will accept. He has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Almost phenomenal.
Magnus Pajärvi.
That was just the worst trade. Broberg, what they draft him 8th?
Yeah, I think Magnus Pajärvi was 10th.
Yeah, he was 10th.
Pujärvi was 3rd.
It went Pajärvi in 09, 10th. Hall, Nuge, Yakupov, back to back, and then who'd they draft in 13?
I have no idea. Who they
I don't remember. Oh, Griffin Reinhardt, wasn't it?
No, because Griffin was...
Oh, no, he went to Islanders. Never mind.
That was
Sorry.
2012,
That was 2012,
I believe.
Right, I forgot that he got traded to the Oilers. But then they go 14. Who'd they get in 14? I think they drafted a defenseman. Didn't work out. Then McDavid. Oh, no, Draisaitl was 14. Then McDavid. And then from there, it's been... Obviously, they've been getting better, so they lower draft picks. But Broberg, I think, was their last top 10. But it's just like, I don't think the fans will accept it. And I don't think McDavid will accept it. I think that, like, yes, him and Leon are best friends and whatever, but, like, again, I'm going back to it. I'm now adding him officially to my trade because he genuinely seems like the only option, the best option to move out Campbell's contract, bundle him with Draisaitl, and get something from another team. I made 4 trades. I put them out on Twitter, so you can go look at our Twitter at Gameday Tarps if you want to find them all. I'm going to say the one I did for Nashville when we cover Nashville. But you just go and you look at the statistics of the contract situations, the amount of money, the fact that they're going to have to pay him like $13 million or more in 2 years. And then after that, the next year, McDavid's contract runs up. Campbell's still going to be a $5 million contract then. Like, it just doesn't make sense when you look down the road. They're not going to win this shallow of a team. Sacrifice Draisaitl. It's not his fault, but you got to use him as the pawn to get to the end.
Yeah,
Well,
and just to add again to your list of top tenors, Darnell Nurse was a 7th pick in 2013 to add to that list of top 10 guys.
So I got a question for you both. Do you think we'll see a Wayne Gretzky 2.0 crying at the podium with Connor McDavid in the near future, with him getting moved to, say, an LA Kings or a potential other contender? Because, like, it's possible at this point. Like, McDavid is how many years in? He's gotten
8 years.
He's 8 years in. Okay, great. He's got gold medals with Canada, World Juniors. He's got the Art Ross. Funny fact, by the way, the Art Ross trophy was named after Art Ross, who has only scored 1 point his whole career.
Good for him.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he's gotten 150 points. He's getting all these points every single season. But his playoff success is where it matters most, and the Edmonton Oilers just never get it done. So will we see McDavid ever get moved out of Edmonton, or do you think he's a lifer? Tell me your thoughts.
I'll say yes and no to your Gretzky. Yes, I think McDavid doesn't end up finishing with the Oilers. No, I don't think he will be visibly sad about it.
Here's my thing, because those are 2 different stories. Gretzky was forced out of Edmonton. I think McDavid's gonna request out
He's
of
gonna
Edmonton.
force his way.
Yeah,
And Gretzky won cups. Yes, it was a different era, no salary cap, different makeup, and when you had Gretzky, it was unreal. And Messier and Curry and all those guys they had. But really, when you look at it, it's the nowadays. Gretzky, McDavid, Draisaitl, Messier.
they don't have their Curry.
They have Coffey, who is their nurse based on dollar amount, who they have chosen to be their
Dirk
Coffey.
Curry is basically a Evander Kane at this point.
Or even Nuge.
Nuge, yeah, that's
it
a
could
good
be
one.
Nuge.
Yeah.
And the teams are comparable, but goalies were worse then, and whatever. Just either way, I see them both not finishing their careers there. Them having to trade Draisaitl, if not this year, next, because they have to get something for him before they lose him because they have no cap.
They just let him walk like Johnny Gaudreau.
The fan base will be livid if that happens. They'll be livid if they trade him. Like, I wanted to stress that to Oilers fans. This is not something I want Edmonton to do. I like Leon Draisaitl there, but it's something that needs to happen. It's just like how Jay Woodcroft needs to be fired. Ken Holland needs to be fired. You need to bring a coach in who is going to reinvigorate these guys, and you need to bring a GM in that's going to make some trades. That has to make trades. That's going to give up a first-round pick. If you don't trade Draisaitl, here goes our first-round pick with Jack Campbell's contract. Because why? $5 million is more important than the first-round pick in today's NHL. So to me, that is where they need to go. They need a new GM. Holland has absolutely strapped these guys just like Hexall did the Penguins, just like Treliving did the Flames. And they need to move on from him and get someone new in there who can start it out and try again.
Ken Holland, once upon a time, was a building block type of GM. He got cups with Detroit all day long.
Yeah, probably the best GM in the league.
Yeah, but you know what? It's present day, and Ken Holland, we've seen his moves now with the Edmonton Oilers. It's just not fitting. Like, the owners need to come to him and relieve him of his duties and get, like, ask Brian Burke to come out of retirement, just somebody, even Jim Rutherford even. He was a great general manager for Pittsburgh for a number of years, or getting back-to-back cups. Like, he can really pull off a dicey trade.
And not just that, too. There's some young assistant GMs out there ready to be full-time GMs that haven't got their shot. Julian Brisebois in Tampa point in case when Yzerman left. Yzerman had his team. He had it made. They couldn't win. Breezeball came in, just started firing trades everywhere as this young, gung-ho GM. Boom, they went back-to-back cups with Breezeball as the GM.
Hot take: Steve Yzerman, greatest general manager right now in the National Hockey League.
This
no
year,
question. Yeah, no questions. He can pull off some great moves, and he knows good players when he sees it too. Like,
And he knows how to get them cheap. Look at Ben Bishop, who he got, right?
Yeah, from Dallas.
And Bishop he turned into Chernak.
Yeah.
Like, so he's able to rotate and get deals done that most guys can't get.
What would you do, Dakota?
I think Edmonton definitely needs. I think a younger GM is definitely the way to go with how the game's going. I feel like these older guys are going to try to get an older style of play that these guys aren't used to getting or seeing, or they're going to bring guys in that they're just not going to gel with in the locker room or on the ice for that matter.
Well, have you seen the battles of Alberta's lately? Like,
They're so bland.
they're so boring. Like, I remember when, the goalies would come to center ice and then they would want to tilt.
It feels like 10 years ago, and it was like 4.
I know. It's like they are getting less tough and they're getting more boring and, like you said, bland. It's just like they're not fun to watch now, watching Edmonton and Calgary play. It's like they're just, randomly we got Vancouver and Florida playing. Like, yippee, it's just a game to them now. Battle of Alberta was the heart and soul of when these two teams would come together. Everything would be put out on the ice. Heart and soul, fights, goals. Fans are getting into it. It's just, it's not the same, I don't think, anymore. Like, you guys went to the Heritage Classic, great experience, but did you guys notice, like, the less gritty the game was almost?
Yeah, we saw a couple points where we were like, something could happen here, and then it was like, they didn't fight.
Well, yeah, because I think there's an audio clip of Evander Kane calling out all of Calgary. Like, he's like, what are you going to do? What are any of you going to do? But back in the day, you would probably get your lights knocked out for saying something like that.
And for such a big stage at Commonwealth Stadium of 55,000 people, like, you got everyone from all over, and especially, you're playing Edmonton, Calgary, in Edmonton, outdoors. Like, this is the time to be the most grittiest you guys have been in years, and it just wasn't that. Great game, but it just wasn't the Battle of Alberta that everyone knows and loves.
Now, one guy I will say who went out and went for it, and noticeably was being physical out there, was Dennis Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
For you guys. Like, he was looking for it. He was slashing Kane. He was hitting everything. Like, he was looking ready to go.
But we needed that out of Zadorov continuously. I will say Zadorov, I think, had a couple decent hits out there. I think he hit Draisaitl a couple times, and that was cool to see. But, we had guys like AJ Greer score a goal. Like, that's awesome, but that's not, like, that's not a star scoring. He didn't do, like, a big hit. Like, it wasn't a battle. It's just...
You need an energy spark from him.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to L.A. They add Dubois, our Kamloops boy, Hickett's, Anderson, England, Talbot, Lewis, and Rittich. And they subtracted Iafallo, Velarde, Kupari, Thompson, McEwen, Corpusalo, and Edler. They have just over $100,000 in cap. Top prospects are Brant Clark, Spence, Portillo, Alex Laferriere, who has been playing for the team this year, Fagemo, Turcotte, and Bjornfot. And they have a first, a fourth, a sixth, and a seventh. And players who I could have seen traded at the beginning of the year, I had Byfield. I'm going to remove him. And then Arthur Kaliev I have as a potential trade.
I have a hot take on this one. Yes, love the farm system that the LA Kings have been building. I also noticed that a player wasn't on that list who has been lights out this year in the Western Hockey League is Cohen Zemer. He has been lights out for Prince George. But another thing, too, is that I think the Winnipeg Jets won that trade when they sent PLD from Winnipeg to LA. When they got Alex Iafallo, he has been lights out for the Jets this year. And Gabriel Velarde, another depth piece. I think with PLD, he's been always wanting to request a trade out, and I don't think his time in LA would be long per se because he'll probably start.
His end game, I think, is Montreal 100%.
Yeah, he'll want to try to slice and dice a deal with the general manager. Yeah, get me out of here on a flight to Montreal. Let's go, buddy.
Absolutely. And I forgot to mention I have them third in the Pacific, so I don't know where you guys see them. But
I think third's a strong case. You know, they're still a great team. Anze Kopitar is now second in all-time franchise scoring, just behind Marcel Dion now. So, you know, great captain in Kopitar. He's leading the team still producing. And yeah, you got guys like PLD there now, and then you got Arvidsson, and just
Byfield this year. I had him as trade bait because of last year. And honestly, he's played fantastic this year.
He has.
You talk about him and Alexis Lafreniere, who was going to step up this year. Byfield took that step.
Mm-hmm.
Laf's been better, but Byfield took that step where he's actually like dominating some games.
He's earned that full-time role now. He's out of Ontario Reign, and now he's full-time with the Kings, which is great. Love to see it, man. He was killing it for Sudbury, and now he's killing it for the Kings. Like, they got a great draft pick.
Yeah, I don't got a whole lot to add on LA. I think they are going to be a playoff team this year. I mean, maybe more goalie depth I think they might need, but no, kudos to them. They've still been a consistent team to at least make it to the playoffs.
I think personally they should have kept Jonas Korpisalo. I really think they should have when he came over from Columbus, but I mean, guy walked to Ottawa, but I mean, yeah, that goaltending is definitely a big piece going forward with Los Angeles.
On to San Jose. They just the other day added Kalen Addison. They add Duclair, Hoffman, Ruda, Granlund, Zadina, Blackwood, Burrows, and they obviously subtracted Erik Karlsson, Svechnikov, and Martin Kaut. They have $3.9 million, or that was when Luke Cunnin was on IR, but now he's off, so they have just over $1 million in cap. Their top prospects are Will Smith, William Eklund, Shaq Makhmadulin, Thomas Bordeleau, Tristan Robbins, Henry Thrun, and Philip Bysted. They have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 4th, 5th, 6th, and 2 7ths. Who we could see traded are Duclair, Hoffman, Granlund, Ruda, Hurdle, LeBanc, Ferraro, and Vlasic. And basically where they are now is where they'll be at the end of the year, which is 8th in the Pacific.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm San Jose, I think with whatever you got, I think you just got a trade bait team. You know, if you're a team that's looking to make a push for the playoffs, go to San Jose, see if you want anybody. I think at this point, with where they're at, I don't have their expectations high for this team. I would just go for the rebuild.
Yeah, the greatest thing going for the Sharks right now is their rebranding of their home and away kits. Like, that was the beautiful greatest thing to happen to them in the last little bit here. But honestly, like, if you were someone to be traded to San Jose, I'm sorry to say this, but you're going to rot. You know, because they are going through such a tough time right now. And new general manager Mike Greer publicly came out and admitted he just chewed out his team, saying this is not how we do things around here, and this is not what I want to be seeing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it is happening because they just are going through growing pains. You know, they're not the Sharks they used to be with Pavelski and the Coutures when he was younger, and, you know, the Marlows. But you know what? It is what it is. They are 8th. They're dead last, tied with Edmonton. But don't give up too much hope. There's still a lot of kick in this team. But I personally think Logan Couture could also be trade bait this come February trade deadline, honestly.
I thought about it. I just looked at his contract being a little too high, but it's definitely not ruled out. If someone wants him bad enough, I think they'll move him for the right price. Absolutely. All right, Seattle Kraken. They add Belmar, Carrick, Yamamoto, Hayden, and Dumoulin. They subtract Geeky, Susi, Donato, Jones, Donskoy, Sprong, and True. Just under $1 million in cap. Their top prospects are Wright, Saleh, Dragicevic, Neiman, and Fisker. They have a 1st, 2nd, 2 thirds, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 2 7ths. The only guy I saw being traded, and this would just be to make their team better, and I still think that is Shane Wright, and I see them as 4th in the Pacific.
Yeah, that's not a bad spot to put them in. This is a team that's done everything right since they've come into the league. They were a team that they come out openly and said, you know, they didn't expect to make the playoffs for a couple of years. They want to build this team from the draft. Yet they're a team that's made it to the playoffs, I think, since being in the league. So they've done everything right. I don't think they need to make any drastic moves. I mean, yeah, if they trade Shane Wright, unfortunate, but I think they could get some good return in that trade that could help make this team better. But yeah, I like where they're at, personally.
Trade Wright to Montreal. for
For what,
Just
Slavkovsky?
for Josh Anderson. Yeah, there you go. There's a good trade.
I'm going to go on a limb and say this. Seattle Kraken has by far my favorite farm team in the whole National Hockey League. This past draft, like they drafted so well, and they got a plethora of an amazing, talented prospects from the Western Hockey League. Like you got Jagger Furcus of the Moose Jaw Warriors, who has been getting hat trick after hat trick, lighting it up and single-handedly getting the Warriors to the top. And then you got guys like Caden Price of the Kelowna Rockets, who has been another steal, and Lukas Dragicevic of the Tri-Cities Americans. I think Ron Francis is another great building block general manager in this day and age. Like, he went out there and he drafted so well. So well. I'm actually jealous of, as a Colorado fan, I'm jealous that he was able to go out there and just steal these guys. Like, who did Colorado get in the first round? Callum Ritchie of the Ottawa 67s. Like, I am not a fan of that. You guys messed up so bad. So bad.
All right, last one in the... Oh, sorry, two more in the Pacific. My bad. Vancouver. They add Lafferty, DeSmith, Suter, Cole, Soucy, Irwin, Sawchenko, and Bluger. And who'd they have from Montreal? I forgot to add that. They traded Pearson, or was that for DeSmith? That was for DeSmith. Never mind, I have DeSmith there.
From Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah. And then they subtracted Pearson, Burrows, Dowling, Dermott, Delia, Furland, and Bear. Oh, and Ekman Larson. They have negative $5 million, but they have $5.75 million on LTIR. Their top prospects are Willander, Lecker-Mackey, Pedersen, and Aturati. They have a first, third, 2 fourths, a sixth, and a seventh. And players who could be traded. Again, this was the beginning of the year when things were not looking good. I put Miller, Pedersen, Hughes, Demko, and Besser. That was when Pedersen wasn't signing his contract. Hughes had not signed his contract and was not given captaincy. Miller had a poor showing last year, and it was questioned whether he was going to be there. Demko, with his injury history, they were wondering if he was going to be traded. And Besser not producing. Every single one of those things have flipped for the Vancouver Canucks in the most positive way. I put them as 6th in the Pacific. I am not sure how I'm going to fit them in the playoffs, but I've got them in the playoffs now.
I see Vancouver, like, with the way they're going now, it wouldn't surprise me if they're the top of the Pacific. At least the top of the Pacific, or even second. Besser is coming on to a amazing year so far to start out. I think he's been pretty unheard of the last couple seasons, but I've also heard that he's also working with new trainers this year, so maybe that's helping him out. Pedersen playing phenomenal. Hughes also being one of the best defensemen this year, and maybe even Vancouver's top player in overall, and being
20 points in 12 games,
and being named their captain, and they're lighting it up this year.
Their only problem really is Pedersen's contract.
Yeah,
that's really their only problem.
I personally, I think the way things are going, they keep this up, Pedersen will resign now. I 100% think so. Like, as an outside source again, like, they're fun to watch.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
the Canucks have absolutely just turned it up a notch. The general manager of the Canucks is laughing now because they are showing the fans that they actually did win that Philip Hronek trade for that first round pick of last year. Like, the guy's got 14 assists already now. Like, and then you got, like we said, Quinn Hughes, 20 points. Pedersen has been killing it. He's over 20 now. JT Miller turned it up a notch. Brock Besser had, like, just a phenomenal game. First game of the season. Actually, 2 against the Edmonton Oilers to start it off. Another 10 and 2.
And he just scored against them their third game.
Yep.
What does he have? 7 goals or 8 goals in 3 games versus the Oilers? Like, oh my goodness.
And they've won all 3 outings against the Oilers this year, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I would not expect that when we had Edmonton up there. Like, I didn't expect Vancouver to be 3-0 against Edmonton this year.
If you asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said at the lowest, Edmonton would be 2-1. With, like, maybe that being a overtime or shootout loss.
No, exactly. And you had an 8-1 victory over Edmonton your first outing. Like, oof.
Yeah, key pieces for them, too, is Di Giuseppe and Dakota Joshua. Like, these guys are some good depth pieces, and they are gritty for the Vancouver Canucks. Like, I'm sure all Canucks fans are just absolutely going ballistic over this. Like, they are having such a strong start to the season. I cannot see them slowing down. Like, they are fun to watch.
All right. Up next is Vegas. They add Geertsen only, and they subtracted Quick, Kessel, Bluger, Patrick, and Brossois, and Riley Smith as well. They have $5 million on LTIR, and they're just negative $4 million. Their top prospects are Edstrom, Cormier, Brisson, Sanovalov, Dorofeev, Lindholm, Korzak. Korzak's actually played a couple games this year. He's looked pretty good. And they have a first, second, third, fifth, sixth, and 2 sevenths. And I don't have anyone on their team who could be traded. They're maxed out at the cap, fresh off the cup win. Only really lost Riley Smith as a main contributor. I had them second in the Pacific. I had them second in the West. I now have them first in the Pacific, first in the West.
Yeah, I see Vegas and Vancouver definitely fighting for that top spot. Now, as for trading, I don't see Vegas making any drastic moves to this team unless there's a major injury that occurs in the season that might force them to do like a trade at the deadline or something.
But they're honestly battling through that right now. White Cloud hasn't played this year, and Hag is out right now. That was like their best shutdown pair in the playoffs, and they're still motoring on just fine.
Well, exactly. So I think that's what it's going to come down to, though, is like it's going to come to the trade deadline, I think, for these guys. I don't see them making any moves before then. For a team that come off like winning the Stanley Cup and to continue that domination, yeah, they're definitely going to be a top team in the West. Playoff, obviously, for sure, for their however many consecutive years straight now. Yeah, I don't see them making any big moves. How about you?
I got them, again, first in the West. Like they're dominant. Like last time I checked, they were undefeated. Like, the big thing for me is that I don't see them also making any moves. If Mark Stone stays healthy, he is going to lead these guys right back into the march of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and don't be surprised if they go back-to-back. They are way too deep, and they got the cap to keep these guys around. Jonathan Marchessault, lights out. William Karlsson, lights out. Mark Stone, Alex Petrangelo's now back off of injury, so this is just such a deep team. You got the tandems of Logan Thompson and Adin Hill, like, that is the Swayman and the Allmark of the West. Like, just killing it. You don't want to move any of these guys out.
All right, let's jump over to the Central Division now. Start with Arizona, who added Durzi, Kerfoot, Stetcher, Zucker, Dumba, Onyebuchi from our Kamloops Blazers, and Dermott, and they obviously added Logan Cooley to their roster. They subtracted Dauphin, Cassian, Nemeth, Ladd, Ritchie, Fisher, Mackey, Imama, and Dea. They have $5.5 million in cap. Their top prospects are Cooley, Gunther, Simashev, Geeky, and Lamoureux. They have a first. They have 3 seconds, and they have 10 over the next 3 years. They have 3 thirds and 7 over the next 3 years. 2 fourths, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. Who could be traded? I have Zucker, Dumba, Stetcher, and Dermott. And I have them at 7th in the Central, which is the bottom of the Central, because there's only 7 teams.
I like the Dylan Gunther move. Guy was lights out, for the Edmonton Oil Kings, and then a little bit for the Seattle Thunderbirds there. He is their top prospect, in my opinion. I love Connor Geeky, another great prospect. And then Logan Cooley, who's been making a full-time appearance in the NHL. He's been lights out as well. I think the future's bright for the Arizona Coyotes. Do I think they're going to be moving up in the standings anytime soon pretty drastically? Not a chance. 7th in the Central is a safe bet for me, but boy, they got a bright future if they can still maintain that arena deal and stay in Arizona.
Yeah, I definitely love the acquisition of Durzi. I loved him in LA, and he still continues to be, I think, a key player depth-wise on a team, and he's lighting it up for Arizona, I believe, too. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Dallas, I don't see this team doing any big changes this year, like up the standings-wise. They're a team that's willing to take on contracts, though, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be just kind of like a team that we'll be at the deadline where someone wants to dump a bad contract, I guess. But yeah, nothing too insane for them.
On to Chicago. Obviously, they add Bedard, Perry, Foligno, Hall, and Donato. They subtract Tays, Kara, Jones, Caleb Jones, I should be more specific, Stalock, Englund, Mitchell, and Regula. They have $11 million in cap hit available. Their top prospects are Bedard, Korchinski, Reichel, Moore, and Nazar. Now, Bedard, Korchinski, and Reichel have all been playing this year, which is good to see. Their draft picks, they have 2 in the first and 5 in the next 3 years. They have 3 in the second and 8 over the next 3 years. 2/3, a 5th, and a 6th. I don't see anyone being traded because they're at the bottom and they've kind of made their roster to where they want it. And, I'm sorry, there is 8 teams in the Central. I was dumb. And I have them at 8th in the Central.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this being a playoff team, but I don't see them being last in the Central.
They've proven that, yeah,
Yeah,
since they started.
I think they definitely had a little bit of a slow start, but I think Bedard's coming out hot now. He just had his first 4-point night the other night.
Versus my Lightning.
Versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, exactly.
They're on a sinker.
And beat them. So, I mean, if Bedard and the Blackhawks can keep that up against teams like Tampa, I can see them being a very exciting team to watch this year, but not a team to have high expectations for.
Yeah, I mean, it was evident from day one that they'd be burning through Bedard's first year of his ELC. But Korchinski, that was a bit of a surprise for me that they confirmed after the 9-game trial that they were going to be burning through his as well. Like, last year I was surprised that they selected him 7th overall, but now I'm seeing as time goes on why that was such a good move. He is such a great offensive defenseman, and he can make some great passes. Like him and Bedard. Every time I see Bedard on the score sheet, it's from Korchinski. Like, just... These are Team Canada World Junior teammates the last 2 years, and they were killing it then, and they're killing it now for the Blackhawks. So I thought that was a great pick by them in the draft, and I like the two of them together. Do I think Chicago as well will be making it far? Probably not. 6th is a safe bet as well, but I think with some of the draft picks that Chicago has gotten in the recent years and veteran core pieces like Corey Perry and Seth Jones there, I think, things will be looking not so bad for them. But, I mean, with another allegation coming out the other day, actually, with a second person, I see a little bit more negative spotlight on the Blackhawks and
I meant to mention that. I completely forgot to note that down. You're right. Actually, we should talk about that. The second player came out and has noted that they were sexually assaulted by that video coach. It'll be interesting to see who that is that comes out and what they say, if they ever reveal who they are. But it's not a good light, and I just, you see these teams getting punished first round picks for things,
and they were awarded with Bedard.
If they don't lose a first round pick this time, what is the league doing with team punishment?
Yeah, now Ottawa just got rejected from the failed Dadonov trade.
Exactly. And I want to throw in an argument to that. Vegas blaming Ottawa for not giving them the no trade list. Well, that's also on Dadonov's agent to go and be like, hey, this team's not on his list. You can't trade him there, just so you know. Like, how did his agent let him agree to all... Because you have to sign trade papers and stuff. Like, how did his agent just let that go by?
Should be the agent's fault.
Yeah,
he's the middleman.
He is. He's the contract negotiator. How is it Ottawa's responsibility to tell Vegas who is and who isn't on his trade list? Like, it's up to his agent. Hey, by the way, when he signed his contract, he had a 10-team no-trade list. We gave it to Ottawa. Here's who it is. That is how simple that conversation should have been. To me, it's on the agent. I feel bad for Ottawa. I don't think they deserve to lose their pick. I do think now Chicago should lose their pick, that this has come out a second time. It's an embarrassment to the league. It's an embarrassment to the organization. Their fine was one thing last time. Time to lose a pick like the rest of these teams are.
And here's my thing. On a side note as well, there's been 2 times now that the Anaheim Ducks have been snubbed out of the first overall pick. Once to Pittsburgh for getting Crosby, and now this past draft. Like, they had the worst record in the league, dead last. And guess who got it? The Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I heard from a few people that, like, and they all said the same thing, like, maybe it was rigged or maybe it was just coincidence. Like, they need Bedard to get a positive spotlight on them through this difficult time where all these behind-the-scenes shit's going on and coming to light. Like, they don't need so much bad publicity. They need a generational talent like Bedard to get more of, like, the spotlight off of all this negative stuff. So I think, personally, it was a little bit coincidence that, you know, they kind of got rigged in their favor.
I believe that the draft is honorable, but I believe that they shouldn't have been there. Based on now how they're punishing other teams, it's just ridiculous. So, yeah. But back to them as a team, I think that they are definitely going to be, near the bottom of the Central.
Yeah, 6th.
All right, on to the Colorado Avalanche, who had Duran, Johansson, Colton, Wood, Tatar. They subtract Newhook, Comfer, Helm, Eric Johnson, Nieto, Fiddler, and Rodriguez. They have $0 in cap. Their prospects are Callum Ritchie, Mikhail Gulayev, Nikolai Kovalenko, Sean Barons, and Oscar Olesen. They have a 1st, 4th, 6th, and 7th, and another top team that I don't see is going to be trading anyone, and I have them as 1st in the Central.
Yeah, I don't see them going much lower than that either, but I will add that Duran has been a little bit of a disappointment. I had high hopes with this guy coming into Colorado, reviving his career a little bit, getting some play time with McKinnon. I was hoping to see that Halifax connection again, but doesn't look like it's panning out too much for those two.
Here's my thoughts. He had a great preseason with the Colorado Avalanche, and he got his first point with the team, his first game. But then ever since then, he was still on McKinnon's line and then not producing, and then he gets demoted and then demoted. And it's, I still say they should give him a shot. The season's still young. We're like 12 games in. But, I mean, Georgiev has been not solid the last few games. He's been shaky now, even though he was coming off a strong start with Colorado. They were 6-0-1, and then ever since then, they've been kind of stumbling a little bit, and then now they're competing with Dallas and Minnesota, fighting for 1st in the Central. It's just, and now they got Provestov now in the place of Pavel Francouz, who is a solid backup for them, and I think that Colorado come trade deadline, I personally can't see any moves. They got some great pieces in Thomas Tatar, Ross Colton, who has actually had a couple shorthanded goals the last few games. He loves being there. I see the smile on his face every time he scores a goal with the Colorado Avalanche, so good for Ross Colton. The prospect pool, Joe Sakic, another great general manager. He's drafted well, but again, controversial pick in Callum Ritchie, personally. There was a lot of guys who dropped to 2nd round who they could have easily gotten, and they got another 1st round pick from the Montreal Canadiens, who they drafted the Russian kid there. But, I mean, yeah, I think 1st place for Colorado's definitely a solid pick. They'll definitely be fighting for it, like I said, with Dallas and Minnesota. But, I mean, yeah, they still got a deep core. With Gabriel Landeskog, though, didn't we talk about them having some extra cap space because he's on LTIR?
But they've used it.
They've used it.
That was to get Johansson's $4 million and to pay Colton his $4 million. That was basically his $8 million.
And that was another great move. Ryan Johansson was another great acquisition from the Nashville Predators. That was a nice move there. So, yeah.
To get him at half a deal is unreal.
Unreal.
Just a great pickup. He's been fantastic for them. All right, up next, the Dallas Stars. They add Steele, Duchesne, Bayreuther, and Pouliot. They subtract Butcher, Glendening, Smith, and Domi. They are just at about $500,000 in cap. Their top prospects are Kamloops' own Logan Stankoven, Maverick Bork, Bichelle, Christian Kyrou, Martino, and Kamloops Blazer alumni as well, Matthew Semenoff. They have a 1st, a 2nd, a 5th, and a 7th. They have no cap, really, and they're an old team, so I don't see them making any trades. But I do have them at 2nd in the Central.
Probably just what Dallas was saying. Probably that fight for 1st place in the Central. I think they made all the moves kind of to just add depth to this team. It didn't look like they wanted to go the build from within route, which, I mean, is fine. Just to see what Logan can do in the AHL, which I do believe he is lighting it up insanely for the Texas Stars, so good on him for that.
Yeah, he's actually got the franchise record for fastest amount of points in their franchise history. So congrats to Logan. And have you guys also noticed with Jason Robertson this season, like he was lights out like to start the season last year, but did you notice how kind of cold he is to start this year? Like that is a guy heavily relied upon in Dallas, and I mean, hopefully Joe Pavelski and guys like Miro Heiskanen has been kind of quiet. Coming off a Norris candidate right there, like just. Again, I can see them fighting for top, but I mean, some of these guys got to kind of get going here. But they're still good regardless.
I think it's because they're an old team. Like, not Robertson, not Heiskanen, not Hintz, but the team as a whole, it takes those guys a little bit longer to get their legs under them in a year. Pavelski, Ben, Seguin, they're all upper 30s now. So they need a little bit of extra time. So I think that once they get really into season shape, they'll be just fine. But yeah, right now it's affecting Robertson's points, it's affecting Hint's points, it's affecting Heiskanen's points because these guys aren't at their peak performance level right now to be dominating the NHL like they usually do.
Yeah, I mean, they may be old, but they also have core younger pieces like Wyatt Johnston and Ty DeLeandria. Like those are some two solid pieces down the middle. So I mean. Even guys in the system, like we said, Logan Stankoven and Christian Kyrou of the Erie Otters, like these are guys coming up that will be big for Dallas.
Yeah, so I think Dallas made all the right moves for, the next couple of years at least, just building depth-wise from outside their system, I think. Let Logan Stankoven, see how he does in the AHL, so with how he is right now, I think he's going to be deadly for Dallas in the next couple of years if they give him that call. Hopefully they do. But yeah, good things I think are going to come out of Dallas here soon. I think guys are going to start getting hot again, like you guys were saying with Robertson and Heiskanen. I do think it's going to be more, at the beginning of the season, it's probably going to be more relied on their goalie to kind of keep them in it until games start to matter where you see these guys go, okay, we need to get this done.
Jake Ottinger's been pretty good recently, and
yeah, he's still one of the top goalies in the league. There's no doubt about that.
And they also signed Sam Steele out of camp as well. Mm-hmm. That's another younger good piece there, and also in Thomas Harley coming in. Yeah, another good piece there.
All right, on to Minnesota. Just the other day, they added Zach Bogosian, Lettieri, and Pat Maroon, Chaykovich, and Kyra. They subtracted just the other day Kalen Addison. They subtracted Matt Dumba, Nyquist, Campbell's boy Joe Hicketts, and John Klingberg. They have and Reeves. They have $0 in cap. Their top prospects are Wallstad, Rossi, Faber, Ogren, and Urov. Their draft picks this year are a first, 2 seconds, a fourth, 2 fifths, and a sixth. And players who could be traded. Funny enough, I had Addison noted, and he has been traded. So I have them as third in the Central. So I have Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota as my playoff teams from the Central. No one else.
Again, this is a team that I think that doesn't need to add a whole lot to their team. I mean, if they do make a move, I think they're doing it at the deadline, seeing where they're at, making that playoff run. But as of right now, I think this team's just going to see how it rides through the season. And yeah, I don't see them being a bottom of the Central team, but third or fourth for sure.
Marcus Foligno and Matt Boldy got locked down, which is going to be good to see. They're big contributors there. Another noticeable pieces I've seen left out on that list, O'Reilly, was Kyle Masters and Caden Bankier on that list.
Right.
Kyle Masters actually got his first pro goal with the Iowa Wild, so congrats to him as well. I mean, unfortunately, he had his Memorial Cup stint cut short from a scary hit from the Peterborough Petes, but I mean, he's obviously back and healthy, so good for him. He's awesome. Killing it. Good defenseman.
All right, Nashville Predators. They add Nyquist, O'Reilly, and Shen. They subtract Duchesne, Johansson, Borowecki, and Foote. They have $8 million in cap. Their top prospects are Skarov, Wood, Kemmel, Evangelista, and Zachary LaRue. They have a first, 3 seconds, 2 thirds, 3 fourths, a fifth, a sixth, and no seventh. Players who could be traded are Novak, Sherwood, Barry, and Lankinen. and I have them at 5th in the Central. Now, quickly, I am just going to go over my trade idea for Nashville, and then we can get into where you guys think they're going to be. So my trade for Nashville is Nashville receives Draisaitl and Campbell for $13.5 million, and Edmonton receives Saros, Fabro, Lauzon, and Parsonen for $10.35 million. So there's no picks exchanged, and Edmonton gets $3 million in cap relief.
A little fun fact about Nashville. Did you guys know that when they were building Bridgestone Arena, that they found a saber-toothed tiger skull when they were excavating the site for the build, and then that's when the logo and the name came to be.
Really? I didn't know that.
Fun little fun fact about that.
That's awesome.
About Nashville. But yeah, I like Nashville's chances. The addition of Ryan O'Reilly was the biggest one, losing Ryan Johansson, but I thought that was a great piece coming out of Toronto. So, I mean, I see them 5th in the Central. That's a strong opinion for me. I mean, they're definitely not a deep team like they once were, but...
Yeah, I think the acquisition of Ryan O'Reilly has been outstanding for this team. I didn't expect him to be as good as he is this year, and I think it was an identity thing for the Toronto leave, right? I think he wanted to be a bigger player, and I don't think...
He hated the media. He hated that he couldn't go shopping. He's the type of guy who just likes to live his life, and he hated that he wasn't private anymore.
Yeah, and I think he stepped into Nashville awesome. I think the fans love him.
He just fits it.
He does.
He just
fit
looks
it.
like a Nashville guy.
He does, and
he's known to play his guitar. And
but I do not see this team being as exciting to watch as they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. You know, even back when PK Subban was still playing for this team, or when it was them versus Vegas in the finals. Yeah. So, would you have them at 5th?
5th, yeah. Out of a playoff spot,
yeah,
but still fairly competitive.
I don't know if necessarily they'll be out of a playoff spot. I think maybe they could be a wild card spot, just make it in. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see them being as exciting as they once were, but they're definitely still a good team to be playing against.
Yeah, currently they're sitting at 5 and 6, so just below 500. Like, I feel they're going to be just an above average 500 team, so maybe just outside the playoff bubble, but you never know. Things could happen. They could make some moves, try to get them some more scoring, but yeah, I'd say 5th is pretty solid too.
Okay, San Jose. They add Hayes, Subban, Sundqvist, Dvorsky, McEachran, and they subtract Grice, Witkowski, and Pitlick. They have $200K in cap. Their top prospects are Dvorsky, Snuggerud, Bolduc, Dean, and Hofer. Again, Kamloops Blazers alumni here. Their 2024 draft picks, they have a 1st, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 4th, 5th, and 7th. Players who could be traded are Kapanen, Vrana, and Blay. And Sundqvist, Scandella, Bortuzzo, and Prunovic. Sorry, I had a longer list than I thought. And I see them at 6th in the Central, not a playoff team.
I've been hearing actually from a few people, including your brother actually, who's heard this, is that Edmonton is looking to acquire Jordan Binnington actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But I mean, yeah, St. Louis again just hasn't been that strong of a team. You know, they lost Ryan O'Reilly, and then just they thought they'd be getting a great piece in Justin Falk. That kind of wasn't the case, and they're mediocre in my opinion. St. Louis is just mediocre. Okay, you had a great run in 2019. You guys were dead last in January. Came all the way back and won the cup, but you've been irrelevant ever since. Maybe had 2 Winter Classics, great, but yeah. They're 6th in my opinion in the Central this year.
With that trade, I see the Oilers fans desperate and being like, "We want Mike Smith back, but he's retired. We like goalies who fight. Who always wants to fight? Jordan Binnington wants to fight. We should get Jordan Binnington."
Oh, yeah.
That's just their breakdown.
If Edmonton goes the Jordan Binnington route, I think they're going to regret that decision heavily. In St. Louis, I think he's a toxic player. I don't know if he's going to suit that Edmonton lifestyle with that type of attitude.
He's going to bring him down even more.
But the Battle of Alberta definitely would have been a little bit exciting if they had that type of player.
You think Markstrom would have dropped the mitts?
I don't think Markstrom would have dropped the mitts at all, but I do think that Binnington would have been a voice to be heard in that game. He would have sparked something to go on. He would have slashed someone with a stick or something, but he definitely would have been a good player for that scenery of game, but I don't think he's that good of a goalie to be a continuous goalie for that team. But I do think that a trade of Binnington would be a smart idea because I believe that Hofer guy, he's a pretty decent goalie. I think he got his first win this year, I believe.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of the wrong Hofer when I said Hofer, wasn't I?
He was actually Stuart Skinner's teammate and former goalie.
I was mixing up my Hofers.
Swift Current.
Yeah, so the future in goaltending at least seems bright for St. Louis, but again, yeah, you guys are probably spot on with being a bottom team in that division.
Okay, last but not least in the West, the Winnipeg Jets. They add Velarde, Iafallo, Kupari, subtract Dubois, Wheeler, Gagne, and Comrie. They have $2.3 million. Their prospects are Colby Barlow, Rucker, McGroarty, Chaz Lucius, Brad Lambert, Ville Heinola. They have one pick in every round, and the players who I could see being traded are Logan Stanley, and I have them as fourth in the Central in a playoff spot.
Yeah, you almost
not in a playoff spot. Sorry,
you almost could have had two more players of that trade list before they signed Scheifele and Hellebuck to their long-term deals, which was a kind of a shock to me at first.
I didn't think it was going to happen.
Because for sure I thought those two guys were gone. At least for sure Hellebuck.
Yeah, I thought there was no way.
But no, there's Winnipeg still a team to be a force to be reckoned with still. So I could see them being. I think they're going to be in a fight too for that second, third spot in the division.
I got him fourth. I mean, I personally love seeing Cole Perfetti full time with the Winnipeg Jets. I love to see it. He's been doing really well as well. They got a good farm system. Winnipeg was very, very good in dealing away Blake Wheeler. That was the best thing that happened to them in a while. And PLD, obviously, as we alluded to. But, yeah, having Scheifele and Hellebuck locked down, arguably two of your best players, other than Kyle Connor, who is as well killing it. Like, I think yes, Winnipeg has always been teeter-totter, but, I mean, with the way things are going, I feel like they're going to be doing good this season and for the next few years to come.
I do feel like Winnipeg is going to be a team that you're going to want to watch out for with trades soon because, I mean, you got like Chaz Lucius, you got Brad Lambert, who's lighting up the AHL right now. You got Colby Barlow, who I think they have high remarks for.
Very high remarks.
So, yeah, I could see some of these guys, obviously not Scheifele now with the big contract, but I could see some of those bigger names, like maybe Ehlers or someone along those lines getting moved to make room for those younger guys.
Well, I personally loved the pick that they got in Colby Barlow from Owen Sound. I mean, he's a phenomenal player for, one of the top scorers in the O, and yeah, coming into last year's draft, that was a good pick by them. Connor Levis, even from Kamloops, he was a good pick as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's going to be fun to watch.
7th rounder. I don't think they have that high hopes for him, but we'll see. Do love seeing those Blazers get drafted.
All right. Quickly, let's just go through who you think you're getting in the playoffs. Either 5 from the Atlantic and 3 from the Central, 4 from each, or 5 from the Central and 3 from the Atlantic. For me, from the Central, I'm going Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota. In the Pacific, I'm doing 5 teams. I'm doing Vegas, Vancouver, LA, Calgary, and Edmonton. I don't know what order it's going to be in. The Pacific's going to be a mess, but I got those 5 teams in for myself. Who do you guys have as your 8 playoff teams?
Well, you know what? I could see the Stars, the Avalanche, the Jets, possibly the Wild making it. Vegas, Vancouver, and LA, and Seattle making it.
For me personally, I got just from the Pacific. I mean, I think the Pacific's weak this year. I'm gonna admit it, guys. I mean, all I got from the Pacific is the Vegas Golden Knights, Vancouver Canucks, and the LA Kings. And then for me personally, I got the Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, Winnipeg Jets, and the Minnesota Wild all coming out of the Central for me. So that's who my picks are coming out of the West for the playoff bubble this year.
Just snub Seattle, eh?
I did. I mean, yeah, they had a great year last year. They had a 40-goal scorer in Jared McCann. Hopefully he can continue that. And Matty Beniers last night just got his first goal against Colorado this season. But he needs to kind of step it up, and a few of the other guys there. But Seattle, I think they're going to be an average 500 team this year. So I wouldn't expect too much out of them, but could be wrong.
I left them out too. I just think that they're going to miss this year as well. It was between them and Calgary, and I went with the Flames.
I don't see it, boys. And that's coming from a Flames fan.
Fair enough. All right, that is it for episode 11 of Gameday Tarps podcast. As always, thank you for listening. Please, like we noted, go check out Oil Change Podcast. We're going to be doing some stuff with them in the future here and throughout. So, again, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you later.